Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for joining us today. We're pleased to have Sam Brennand here from Uberflip. He's the Director of Customer Success for defining and managing the entire customer lifecycle using Amity. Just some housekeeping notes before we get started. If you want to tweet with us, follow along with the hashtag CESBestPractices. Be sure to mention Uberflip and Amity, and not to worry, we'll be sending you the slides after the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Paul Philp, the CEO of Amity, who's going to be taking us through the webinar.
CEO and co-founder of Amity, and thanks for coming out and hearing Sam and I talk about managing the entire customer lifecycle using Amity. And as a special treat for a bonus for everybody today, you're going to get the world premiere of Amity's brand new product. We call it the Lifecycle Manager, and we'll give you a preview of that a bit later in the webinar. If you have any questions or comments at any time, please use the chat widget at the bottom of your ReadyTalk screen. And now I'm going to kick off our conversation with Sam. And Sam is the Director of Customer Success at Uberflip. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Uberflip because we're an Uberflip customer. And so we're on the other end of Sam's awesome customer success treatment. And Uberflip is a content management and a content marketing solution that really makes it simple for Amity to build content hubs that live on our website. So if you go to our website, you'll see that we have the Customer Success Today content hub, and we have the Customer Success Classics content hub, and those are the first two of the hubs that we have planned over time. And it was very, very easy to set that up. It was very, very easy to create more value for the people coming to our websites. We want to have a lot of engagement with our customers. We want to provide them content that they find useful whenever they have a question or whenever they're trying to learn about something in the customer success area. And the Uberflip product has helped us attract those people to our website, build engagement with those people, and also to convert people to other actions to deepen the relationship with Amity. For example, coming to the webinar with Sam and I today. So many of you may have gotten to the webinar today through a piece of content that we use Uberflip to deploy. So I'm thrilled to have Sam here, and I'm going to turn it over to Sam and let him talk a little bit about customer success at Uberflip. And then I'm going to interview Sam about customer success at Uberflip and also about the evolution of his customer lifecycle, and then we'll go from there. Sam, thanks for coming out today. Why don't you say hi to everyone and tell them a little bit about customer success at Uberflip.
Sure, and great introduction. I really appreciate the Uberflip shout out. As Paul mentioned, I'm Sam. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at Uberflip, and we like to think of ourselves as a content experience management platform, just so we can throw as many fun buzzwords into that sentence as possible. But really what we do is we help people manage content, centralize it in one really engaging and quite beautiful experience for their customers. So it's really highly converting. It works to keep people engaged on your website. And then for marketers, it's extremely easy to actually manage that content. And as far as customer success goes, it's actually relatively new here at Uberflip. And what I mean by that is it's been about 2 years since we really started to build our customer success team. And about 2 years ago, I was the first real success hire here, and I came on board to try and build that program up from scratch. Because historically what we'd always had is this really, really amazing success or support team, but a support team is predominantly reactive. So we delivered amazing customer service, but we relied upon our customers to come to us with problems or with questions before we were able to deliver that. So when I came on board, it was sort of with the mandate to make us more proactive in that support. So we had all the answers. We knew what our customers' problems were, but we needed to kind of take it to them and almost preempt their problems with our answers, and make sure that ultimately what we were doing is driving value for them when they're using Uberflip to manage their content and create those kind of awesome experiences. So here at Uberflip, our success team does a few key things, starting first and foremost, like I think the way most success teams start out, with really awesome onboarding. So we look at it as the silver bullet. It's really the focus of most of our efforts, especially in the early days, was making sure that we have the kind of training programs in place that allow our customers to become really self-sufficient, to understand the ins and outs of our product, and ultimately to really quickly deploy our service and our solution in a way that is delivering value as quickly as they can. Beyond that, we do what I really refer to as the true customer success, and that's where we do ongoing coaching and engagement, because this is where we've already got the product built, we've already got the customers trained on how it works, and we can really focus on helping them get to that bottom line value, which for us is finding ways to increase lead generation, finding ways to make their experiences even more engaging and keep their customers happy. So that's the kind of fun stuff that we get to dive into metrics with. We get to do annual reviews with our customers and all that sort of fun stuff. And that's really where we focus most of our efforts after onboarding, is making sure customers are happy, engaged, they're aware of new features, and then, of course, like I mentioned, getting bottom line value from our platform. And we also handle an element of upsell. So ideally, that's a really linear process where if we've onboarded a customer in the right way, we've really knocked it out of the park from an ongoing coaching and engagement perspective, that upsell piece should come really naturally. So the customer's getting enough out of our solution that when it comes time to renew, it's a really easy decision to say, you know what, I really want to use more of Uberflip because it's helped me achieve X, Y, and Z goals for this year. In terms of some of the challenges that we had before we actually had a customer success tool in place, there are a few key ones that I always like to touch on, because customer success it's been a really interesting ride over the last 2 years. And when I started, Uberflip had this really split customer base, and it's just a function of the way that Uberflip grew as a company. But basically, you could chop the customer base into two halves. One used our very first product, which was a PDF viewing tool. The other half of the customer base used the full platform that we built around that PDF viewing tool. So as you can imagine, we have two very different bases, each paying very wildly different prices, each with different goals, different expectations. So what we had to do was find ways to maximize our engagement with our current platform customers. These are the ones that we want to make sure are very happy. But also we need to provide amazing support and service to our existing and legacy customers as well, because they represent a significant portion of our business. And they're original customers, so we love them and we want to make sure they're happy as well. We also had a scale problem. So when we started, we had about 1,500 customers and ramped up to about 1,700 pretty quickly. And even a year into it, when we had a team of 6, that is a crazy ratio when you're trying to have a team of 6 people handle 1,700 individual accounts. It's a massive problem. And we struggle with ways to prioritize accounts. We struggled with understanding which of the different activities a user might take based on whether they were legacy or new actually was impacting their success or health as a customer. And we really had to put our minds to work to find out how we can do the unscalable things at scale. And by unscalable, I mean things like one-to-one advice, marketing best practices guidance, making sure that people are always up to date on the latest and greatest trends in the industry and how our product can help them become best in class in line with each one of those trends. And that's really tough to do when you have almost like a one-to-one relationship with a client, but of course it's almost impossible when you have a one-to-many approach that we did. The last thing that we really struggled with was coming down to managing processes. So we've always had an idea of what our onboarding program should look like, what our engagement program should look like with customers. But when you don't have a tool in place that makes that really easy and accessible for everyone on the team, it becomes really difficult to scale up and make sure that everyone is getting the kind of service they need. So it's funny, I wish I had a picture of it, but back in the day, the way that we used to manage our onboarding program was actually with a whiteboard and sticky notes, believe it or not. So a new customer would sign up. Customer success rep A had the colored blue sticky notes, and we'd assign that account to him, write his name down on a blue sticky note, and we'd post it on the wall. And God forbid that sticky note should become a little bit less adhesive and falls off the wall, then boom, the customer is no longer in our onboarding process, and we have no way to keep track of that. So with a tool like Amity, what we do is just document all of our processes in really, really fine detail so that a new customer automatically gets created in a particular playbook, and we can run them through this lifecycle stages to make sure that they have a series of tasks assigned for each and every stage of the onboarding process, and then ultimately of the customer engagement process as well. So it's a really nice little tie into the customer lifecycle as well, where we've started to manage all of our processes through these different playbooks that tie into how we'd like to take our customers through their journey. So kind of the 500-foot view of what we used to do, what we're doing now. Paul, that answer the question of kind of what customer success looks like at Uberflip?
Perfect. And I'm going to ask some questions and dive into certain areas. But thanks for that introduction. And so one of the things you talked about, Sam, was in the early days and for a while. Customer success at Uberflip was really focused on the onboarding process, and so that's a common experience of growing SaaS companies, and lots of our customers, and I'm sure lots of people on the webinar today are in that situation. But can you tell me how that evolved over time? How did your understanding of the customer life cycle evolve over time?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. And originally, like you mentioned, we did spend most of our time in the onboarding process because it is something everyone acknowledges needs to be amazing. And it is quite straightforward to build a good onboarding program. You can dive into some statistics, find out what your best customers are doing, and then train your new customers to do those things. So it's pretty straightforward to build out that kind of training program, and I think it's a little bit tougher to get into the ongoing engagement standpoint, where you're able to use data to look at specific customers at a specific stage in their journey with your company and understand what you need to do to serve them better. So that took time. When we probably spent the first good bulk of our success team's life building an onboarding program we know was training people the right way. And then we spent the last probably 6 months or so really building out that second half. And one recent change we've made has already started to pay dividends, and that is that we actually split our team in half. So we got to I guess you can phrase it as a critical mass in terms of the number of people on our team, where we felt comfortable dividing that team into a team of onboarding specialists and a team of customer success coaches. The onboarding specialists obviously have their roles well mapped out by now. They're solely focused on taking a customer from close of a deal to getting their first hub launched. And then the customer success coaches are geared around continuing that awesome experience, but making sure that the customer success element is actually happening after the fact. So depending on where a customer is in their life cycle stage with us, so a customer might be renewing soon, a customer might have a particular set of issues, customer might be far and away an advocate for our program, we can actually really easily segment up a series of tasks and responsibilities that gets assigned to that specific customer success coach automatically through the use of Amity. So for us, that really, really does help us in terms of delineating roles and responsibilities. So if you're not focusing solely on onboarding a new batch of customers, which is a really time-intensive process, you can spend more time making sure that you're supporting customers at all of those different life cycle stages.
Perfect. And I'm curious about why you chose to use the word coach and in the role description. What was it that? What was your thinking behind coach?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that we still talk about today, actually, because I think the more common approach is for someone to just throw up the word account manager. But for me, I've always looked at the word account manager as almost a dirty word. It's the same way you see people in sales no longer call themselves a salesperson. They are a solutions architect or something along those lines. And it's because people don't like the idea of being managed. It's something that has become synonymous with a renewal. So it's someone who's going to call you every 3 months and say, hey, are you still happy? And then on that 1 year anniversary, they're going to call you with a bill. So when we say coaches, we want their role to be more consultative. We want these people to be so engaged and so ingrained with our customers and their marketing strategies that our customers view them as an extension of their team. So that whenever we have to phone you and say, hey, you know what, you're not doing something the right way, they're going to be really receptive to that advice because they view us as more of a coach who knows what we're talking about than someone who's just purely interested in getting you to renew your contract when it expires.
Right, exactly. Let me share my experience of, in the first few months when we were a newbie Uberflip customer, and it was a very important project for us. We had some really critical goals that we were hoping to accomplish with the Uberflip platform, and we had put some thought into how we were actually going to use the customer hubs to meet those goals, but they were not fully fleshed out thoughts. And so my experience in the first few months of working with you and your team was not only were you onboarding us and helping us to understand how the product worked in a technical sense and a day-to-day sense, but you were actually coaching us to start to think and act like content marketers. And so I think of that as, we had to put in place some capabilities and some new processes that we didn't have before to meet our goals. It wasn't just that we bought a tool and we were going to get great results. It's like if we wanted to get to the outcomes that we were looking for, some SEO outcomes, some lead generation outcomes, we were going to have to manage our business a little differently. Is that a common experience that you have working with your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a question for you at the end. Let's see if this is something you find to be true as well. But it is definitely something that we find happens with most of our customers. And the one story I always like to fall back on is the way that HubSpot actually approaches this with their customers. Because they have a metric they call the HubSpot Chi score. And it was something they developed internally, but Chi stands for the Customer Happiness Index. So it's a concept that's not too different from something like a Net Promoter Score. It's a way to find out who's happy, who's not happy. But the great thing about the way that HubSpot developed this score is that it doesn't just say a customer is successful because they have logged in 3 times a day, used these features, and seen these results. It says that a customer is successful if they've done all those things, but also if they bought into the mentality that HubSpot preaches, the approach to marketing that HubSpot espouses. And the really beautiful part about that is it really links into the whole idea of changing your company culture, changing the way your company operates in a way that will make you more successful. So the way that HubSpot found is people who do everything that we tell them to do from a product usage standpoint, yeah, you might be successful. But if you are not so fundamentally bought into the idea of inbound marketing, doing all the little things we tell you to do isn't going to make a difference anyways. So it's something that we try and emulate ourselves here at Uberflip, where we can tell you you should do this from an SEO standpoint. We can tell you what types of content are going to help you engage a particular audience best, and when you should deliver that to them at specific stages of the buyer journey. But ultimately, if content marketing isn't something that your organization believes in down to their bones, that's a bigger problem for us. So that's why our marketing team spends so much time creating amazing content, and we spend a lot of time thinking about how we can deliver that to our customers, make sure they're understanding and adopting what we're saying as part of our customer success process. And I'm sure you guys have found this yourselves on the Amity side, but like people who engage with content on the Amity Hub, or people who are regularly reading content about customer success best practices, are probably better at utilizing your tool than customers who don't, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And we know that customers who work with us collaboratively, interact with us like we're coaches, committed to their success, they're just a lot more successful using the Amity product, and they in our experience, they don't churn, and the ones who aren't so open to coaching, they're a little less successful in applying Amity to their business, and there's a higher likelihood of them churning from our product. Great. So I'm gonna pop a slide up here, and so anyone that has been on one of my webinars before will recognize this concept of the customer experience curve. But I think that this is what we're talking about, Sam. That as customer success leaders for SaaS vendors, we have to take ownership of the customer, climbing their customer experience curve, so that they put in place the processes, the skills, the practices, and the capabilities that they need to put in place to be successful. So, we had to put in place the capabilities of being content marketers to get to the goals that we wanted to achieve. Mm-hmm. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think that capabilities piece is really key, and far too often you do see a lot of focus on the process technology skills and practices, because I think that is the pretty straightforward stuff. The capabilities are always a little bit harder and
and another thing that you talked about in your introduction, Sam, is the customer journey. And can you talk a little bit about how you think about the customer journey at Uberflip?
Yeah, of course. And I'll be honest, this one is one I sometimes struggle with, because I find that customer journey is a very flowery word, and it's one that gets thrown about quite a bit, and people love to talk about journeys in almost every sense of the word. But what can be tough about that is, because it is flowery, you don't always have the specific pieces that you can nail down and say, this is how you need to approach a customer at each stage of this journey. So it's one of those things as well that you really need to sit down and dedicate a lot of time to mapping out. And that involves looping in all different people of your organization. So for us, we sit down with our sales team, understand from the time that someone becomes a known lead to the time that they close a sale, what happens at the different stages of the sales process. What questions are they asking? What services are we delivering? What are we preaching? Once they become a customer, then we have to sit down and really think about what their journey should look like. So, what does our onboarding process deliver? What value should they get by the end of the onboarding process? How can we measure whether or not they've achieved it? once they go through that and they get into the, I've been a mature customer for a while stage, how do we make sure that they're continuing to learn so they don't plateau? How do we make sure that we are consistently delivering value around the core areas of the platform that we know they're interested in? And then ultimately, this is where I think it starts to get really tricky, is that process can go on forever. Ideally, it will go on forever. A customer should just be so happy that they're willing to pay you until the end of time because your solution is delivering value and helping them achieve their goals. But it is tricky to think like that, and it almost requires you to adopt a marketer's mindset. And it's something that I think marketers have become really good at, is viewing something over a long period of time, because you might be used to doing that with people who are cold leads and the idea of nurturing someone over time. So looping your marketing team into that process when you're thinking about ongoing engagement and the deliverance of ongoing value can be really helpful. I know I love picking our VP of marketing and our director of demand generation's brains when it comes to that kind of stuff. And ideally along the way, you're going to have opportunities to upsell each of these people. So that again kind of loops back into the customer success, loops back into getting your sales team more involved, your billing team, getting the feedback of everyone as to what the process typically looks like. And then as much as I harped on whiteboards earlier in the day, a whiteboard can be a really good tool for this, just mapping out what each team is doing at each stage of that process, and then just getting everyone in a room and looking at it and saying, does this make sense? Is this the most consistent customer experience? Where do we have potential blockages? Does anyone have potential insights that could make each one of these stages better? It is really, really a time-intensive process, and it's one that never stops. So it's something that we would review monthly here to make sure that we're doing the right things all the time, because our customers are always changing, our product's always changing, and the ecosystem that we work in is always changing.
Right. Yeah, perfect. That understanding the customer lifecycle is an ongoing customer journey, is an ongoing task. So I'm gonna put up another slide now, just to build on what you were saying, Sam, and connect a few dots, and then I'd like your feedback on it. And again, anyone who's been on one of my webinars in the past will recognize the DNA strand. This is the DNA of a SaaS business, where when you think about your customer life cycle, you really have two different aspects of the same thing. The outside-in aspect, which is your internal business processes. So I'm sure, Sam, your sales team has a pipeline, and the pipeline has stages, and there's gates between the stages, and they count the number of deals at each stage every week, and I'm sure that it's all managed that way. But at the same time, that's not how your customers think about it. Your customers think about it in terms of making a critical decision for their business, and so you have to be two-handed about it. You have to manage your internal process. I'm the CEO of Amity, and I care very deeply about the state of our pipeline, and I watch it every day. But I also know that if as Amity grows, it's going to be a function of we're getting better and better at helping prospects make decisions, and about taking a risky decision for their business. And the same at every other stage: onboarding, adoption. The adoption one is really interesting to me because as people who work in SaaS businesses, we think about, are they adopting our product? But I know, being on the other side of Uberflip, what I'm thinking about isn't, are we adopting Uberflip properly? I'm thinking, are we transforming our business? Are we doing the right things? Are we growing in the right way? And so to think about the whole customer life cycle, you have to think about both the internal processes and the external, the inside-out processes, or the customer journey processes to get both. Does that make sense, Sam?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it actually reminds me of something we had kind of a smack in the face aha moment when we really originally sat down to look at how we approach this. Because again, I think the easy thing to do from a customer success standpoint, because we have all of the data at our fingertips, is to look at that adoption stage and say, okay, customers that use this product and this product and this product, like we consider those guys to be successful. When, as you mentioned, the customer is not going to sit down and say, hey, we're using this product and this product and this product, we're doing great. Now they're going to look at what that product is doing for them. So as you mentioned, transforming your business. So at Uberflip, what that means is, we look at a customer and see that they're using our blogging platform and think, great, that's a sticky tool, fantastic. Customers looking at that blogging platform, and they might think, hey, this is pretty easy to use, but ultimately what's going to be the measure for them is whether or not the usage of that blogging platform is contributing more leads to their funnel, or whether it is dramatically improving engagement metrics like time on page, page views, things like that. So there is definitely a distinction between activities and outcomes, and the way that you approach that as a business and the way that your customers approach that are usually two very different things. So I think this model actually sums it up really well, and it definitely is a valuable thing to look at it from how do we see this process and how do our customers see this process.
I love the way you said that. I love your focus on outcomes, because outcomes are really what the customer is in it for, and is ultimately how they're managing their relationship with you and measuring their relationship with you. And so I'm going to put up one more slide and see if I can connect the dots here a little bit from the things that we're talking about. So I think of the customer lifecycle as really mapping onto the experience curve, and our job as SaaS practitioners is to work with our customers to get them up to a new level of outcome production. Like your job is to work with Amity to get us to a new level of lead generation and SEO capabilities. So I think that the life cycle really maps well onto this experience curve, and can serve as a gate. For example, you might not want to go into the expansion phase with the customer until they're getting the outcomes that they hired you for in the first phase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Okay, great. I can talk about this all day, but why don't we take some questions from the audience? So one question here: how do you measure the buy-in and belief you mentioned in the HubSpot Chi score, when it seems like it can be fairly subjective as opposed to measuring logins, usage, etc.?
Yeah, 100%. We try our best to measure it, and you have a good point that it can be subjective. But I would almost argue that almost anything that you look at, even logins, even in product usage, feature usage, can be subjective. It's usually just a question of correlating them with people you know to be successful. So you could look at something like customer lifetime value or use Net Promoter Score to find those. The way that we measure the effectiveness of people we believe to have bought into our approach to content marketing is actually through Amity's HubSpot integration. So we pull over all of this fantastic data from HubSpot about recent conversions in our premium pieces of content, how much time a user might have spent browsing around our own content, so what videos they're watching, what ebooks they're looking at, what video or blog posts they regularly consume. And we can also loop that into our email performance. So if I can see someone is being sent an email every day from our marketing team and they've never one time opened it, I'm going to know that that's an indication that they're not super engaged with A, our own marketing team, but B, probably content as well, because I'm, of course, biased, but I think our content is pretty good.
Hey Sam, you're breaking up a little bit, just so you know.
Oh, is that any better?
It looks like we lost Sam to the vagaries of the VoIP protocol for a couple of minutes. So I will while we queue up that, I'll queue up the next question. Oh, someone's saying Sam sounds good to me. Okay, then it's just me, and I'm good with that. So the next question, Sam, is it's about the transition from the onboarding and implementation team to the customer success coaching team. What's the right time to do that? How do you manage that transition? How do you handle the change in relationship? And what are the, how did you think about that process, and what are the challenges there?
Fantastic question, because that was our biggest concern about doing this. It's one of the reasons I think we tried to push it back as long as we could, because nobody likes to be passed off. Even if you handle it well, it is a friction point with a customer when you're transitioning between different people. So the one thing that we spend a lot of time doing now is just setting expectations, because most things come down to expectations. And the handoff is actually really smooth because we involve the customer success coach from day one. So the very first call that a user does with us, they have both their onboarding specialist as well as the customer success coach on the phone. And the way that we position this to set the right expectations is that the customer success coach owns that relationship and leads that call starting from day one. The onboarding coach is positioned as the person who is going to take them from A to B really quickly, and they're experts in this particular area. And it's almost like you got a little bit of a privilege working with this person who's so good at helping people get up and running quickly. But me as an onboarding coach, I'm here for you long term. Once you go through our onboarding process, you can always come to me for help, support. I'm going to be the one that's coaching you through the marketing best practices. So we found pretty good results with it so far. I think when the expectation is set early on that there are going to be multiple people involved in it, it can be really smooth. So if you're thinking about doing something like that yourselves, I would say as much as possible, get people involved at the same time and just work really hard to make it clear what the roles and responsibilities are. And on the back end, on a process standpoint, from an internal angle, you got to work really hard to make sure that your onboarding team talks to your coaching team, so that when that handoff does officially happen behind the scenes, the coach has all of the intel about what happened in the onboarding process, and they can pick it up from day one. So there's no hiccups with people asking, we went through this problem in the onboarding process. You didn't know about that? Things like that. So it's pretty smooth if you do it right.
Great. Perfect. And another question is, how do you measure the onboarding team, and how does that differ from how you measure the coaching team?
Another great one. And this one is something we're still fine-tuning ourselves, but I think they're fundamentally different activities that go into how you measure each one of those teams. The onboarding team is really just there to maximize, in my view, the time to first value. So you want to make sure absolutely that the customer is fully trained on how each element of your platform works, and that what you launch is a really, really high quality product. But you also want to make sure you do it quickly, because the customer starts paying you on day one, even if it takes you 3 months to launch something, right? So you want to make sure that a month in, they can go back to their team and say, hey, you know what, look what we've already achieved with this program. So we look a lot at the launch time. So we try and do it in under 4 weeks. There are outliers to that, because we move kind of at the pace our customers want to move. So someone wants to launch in 4 months. Well, again, just try and measure them on hitting that target. On the coaching side, the metrics are all about customer health. So we've got a health scoring model that we've built in based on activities people take in the app, the outcomes they're achieving, their history with our success team, our support team, how engaged they are with our marketing content, what our NPS surveys say about them. We roll that up into a nice green, red, yellow health scoring model. So they get measured on the percentage of customers they can keep in the green. They're also the ones who handle our renewals. So we want to make sure they're renewing as close to 100%, if not higher through negative churn of that business as possible. So that one is still a little bit in the works because we've only really started dealing with real annual contracts in the last 6 months. But those are the two big measures on the coaching side. It's renewals and health. On the onboarding side, we really focus on time to first value. And also, we have a quick little onboarding survey at the end to make sure that customers feel like they were supported through every step of the onboarding process. We want to make sure that if there are any areas we need to follow up on after the fact, that we have an idea about that as well.
Great. A couple more great questions here. Do you schedule the QBRs? What? Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold today. Do you schedule the QBRs once the customer is live?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is again where that time to first value comes into play, because ideally that QBR can be in line with their contract, but the nature of our product means that there's really not a whole lot to review if you're not live with the product just yet. So when we could get you on the phone and talk about something, but ultimately if we don't have metrics to review and we're not helping you achieve your goals just yet, then there's not a lot to talk about. So we try and obviously first get time to first value as quickly as possible, but then our QBRs are geared around when a customer has launched.
Great. Okay, another question. Great questions from the audience today. Thank you. Any suggestions about how to introduce a client success program after you've had customers live for a number of years and members of the original project team have moved on from the company?
Yeah, that's a great one. I would almost say there's probably no bad time to implement a customer success program or tool. If it's going to be something that helps you get better and healthier customers, there's almost no downside, and I think almost you could be pretty upfront with customers about it. We're launching this new program. It's going to help us improve your performance with our product. Be hard-pressed to find anyone that would not be receptive to that. I think the tricky thing with customers who have launched a long time ago and the original product teams or project teams have moved on is you really need to focus heavily on retraining. So you can really think about that as an extension of your onboarding program. You're going to have to almost resell the value of your solution to this new team and then make sure that they feel supported every step of the way, because this is not something that they originally bought, but it's something that hopefully they're going to use. So you need to kind of give them onboarding plus, it's regular product training, best practices, but also that little bit of extra service to make sure that they're seeing the value of your tool and they're in a position to implement it successfully.
Great. And do you define a goal with the customer right at the beginning?
Absolutely. That is actually the first thing that we do on our kickoff calls. This actually precedes our kickoff calls. We send our users a really engaging and fun survey they can take through a tool called Get Feedback. And what it's designed to do is just get our onboarding specialists and our coaches on the same page with the customer. So we get background from our sales rep, but we also like to hear it from the customers themselves. So we send them this awesome survey that has a few questions around how they hope to use the tool, what their specific goals are, what kind of improvement they'd like to see, everything that you would ask a customer on a kickoff call, so that when we do jump on the phone, we can dive a little bit deeper and actually set some concrete targets, so that when we do those QBRs 3 and 6 and 9 months down the road, we can look back and say, when you originally signed up, you told us you wanted to generate 200 leads a month. Since you implemented Uberflip, we're doing 300 leads a month. So obviously we're doing a good job. Or on the flip side, if someone's not achieving their goals, we have a very good record of that, so we can approach those calls with a plan of action, so there's no Now, hey, we signed up to do this and it's not working. At least we have a plan that we can present to the customer on those QBRs to get them back into the black.
Perfect. Okay, still lots more questions, but I'm just going to pick one more, and this will be the last question. Thanks, everyone, for all these great questions. So we're talking about the customer lifecycle. Obviously, renewals are a key part of the customer lifecycle. What approach to renewals have you found is the most effective?
So I think this kind of ties in with the last question, is looking back on an original set of goals is probably the best thing that you can do. So you need to start that process well in advance. I would say like 3 months at least. You should start at least internally thinking about how you're going to get a customer to renew. And then schedule different conversations with different members of the team, because chances are people who use your platform might not be the people who pay the bills. So you might need to go up the chain a little bit. But if you can get everyone who is involved with using your product engaged with that process, it'll be really successful. So make sure that you're looking back on those original goals. If you've achieved them, awesome. Make sure you highlight that, and make sure you put a plan in place to exceed those moving forward. If you haven't achieved those goals, you need to really do the analysis to figure out why. Was it lack of adoption? Was it a poor implementation? Was there some other extenuating factors that didn't allow you to do what you thought you were going to do? And if that's the case, you need to build another use case around what's going to be different if you keep going with the subscription. So it's one of those annoying answers, but I think the only real answer and the only real approach you can take when it comes to renewals is do a lot of research and work really hard.
Great. Good advice. Okay. Lots more great questions. I know I don't want to put Sam on the spot because he had his first preview of the Lifecycle Manager last night, but maybe Sam, you can add some color on how you might use the Lifecycle Manager in your business. So this is the Amity Lifecycle Manager. This is meant to be your Monday morning management team meeting view of your customer base. And so you can see that you can define your customer lifecycle stages any way that you want. So here we have land, onboard, adoption, renewal, and expand. But you could have a QBR stage in here. You can have any number of stages that you want, and then you can see the number of customers and the amount of revenue that is in each stage. And also you can see that you've got in onboarding, you've got a whole bunch of green customers, you've got a whole bunch of red customers, and a whole bunch of yellow customers. And so you might want to really understand what's happening with those red customers. And so you can click on that and get a list of all of the red customers in the onboarding stage. And then you can also set goals for each stage. So you can say that you want to have this number of accounts at each stage at the end of the month, or this much revenue in each stage at the end of the month. And then you can track your progress against that goal, so you can see whether you're on track towards the goal that you set for yourself for that period of time. And the great thing about using a platform like Amity is all of this can be fully automated. And so if you just take a look, just brush over the lifecycle stage. You can see that what the rules are that control which customer is in which stage at what time. And we do that in the Amity product through our playbooks. And so the land stage might have a trial conversion playbook, and customers are automatically in a particular stage when they're in a particular playbook. And so you can then see the automation through the whole life cycle of the Amity account. So Sam, having had all of 12 hours to think about this, any questions you would ask about the Lifecycle Manager, or any insights that you'd like to share about how you might use a tool like this?
Yeah, no, I can't wait to dive further into it. I think you hit the nail on the head with that Monday morning management meeting concept, because this is something that I know I would love to bring into my Monday morning meetings. We usually do spend a lot of time thinking about which customers are healthy, unhealthy, but it's awesome to look at this on a more macro level and see, based on their stage of the life cycle, how healthy we are, or whether we have any warning signs we should be looking at. On the back end, I know we took a quick peek at that last night, but it was also very cool to be able to automate things between different life cycle stages in a way that can make it easy for teams like an onboarding team and a coaching team to work seamlessly together without having all the manual work that comes with it.
Great. Thanks for that, Sam. And I know our customer success team is looking forward to onboarding you with the new app when it comes out next week. And so we have 2 minutes left. I just want to use the last 2 minutes to thank everybody who came out to the webinar today. Thank you very much for your time. It was a great conversation, lots of great questions. And if you don't know who Amity is, we're a customer success automation platform that provides you with a complete suite of customer success tools. We think of ourselves as the mission control command center for your SaaS customers. And you can hear that in the things that Sam was saying today. And just a quick tour of the Amity product. We pull all of your customer data together from CRM, email, support tickets. Then we allow you to do analytics based on that, your health score, data trends. And Sam gave some great examples of how they use insights and health scores in their workflow. Then we let you automate your key tasks, your key workflow. Then that now feeds into our Lifecycle Manager, and that feeds into our reporting application, so that you can close the loop and keep optimizing each step in your customer journey and your customer lifecycle. So Sam, thank you very much. Awesome insights today. Thank you for sharing that with everybody on the audience. Everybody on the audience, thanks for coming out today. If you'd like to learn more about the Amity Lifecycle Manager, or how the Amity platform can help you manage your entire customer lifecycle and automate your customer success processes, just drop us a line on our website, and we'd be happy to arrange a meeting and give you a demonstration and talk through that with you. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the next session with Kia on improving customer retention by managing your customer journey. Kia, if people don't know, was head of customer success at Eloqua, and she set up her own customer success strategy consulting business. So we're thrilled that she's going to be back and have another session with us. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we really appreciate your time.